Frontline Standoff. The battle for Ukraine's future. Welcome to this special report on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Since Russia's invasion in 2022, the conflict has evolved into a protracted struggle with significant regional and global implications. As of June 2024, the situation remains fluid, with both military and diplomatic efforts playing crucial roles in shaping the outcome. Military operations. Russian military objectives in Ukraine have focused on securing territory and asserting influence over key strategic areas, particularly in eastern Ukraine. The Kharkiv Oblast has been a focal point of intense fighting, where Russian forces initially made advances but have faced stiff resistance from Ukrainian troops. In recent months, Ukrainian forces, supported by Western military aid and logistical support, have managed to halt Russian advances in several areas. The introduction of Western weaponry, including advanced artillery and defensive systems, has proven pivotal in disrupting Russian military strategies and reducing their operational capabilities. Humanitarian impact. The conflict has exacted a heavy toll on civilians, with widespread displacement and humanitarian crises unfolding across Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee their homes, seeking refuge in safer regions or neighboring countries. The humanitarian response has been strained, with international aid organizations struggling to meet the basic needs of displaced populations amidst ongoing hostilities. The impact on civilian infrastructure has been devastating, with reports of widespread damage to homes, schools, hospitals, and essential services. The psychological and emotional toll on civilians, especially children and vulnerable populations, cannot be overstated, as they endure the trauma of living in conflict zones and the uncertainty of their future. Geopolitical implications. The conflict in Ukraine has profound geopolitical implications, reshaping the security landscape of Europe and beyond. Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 marked a significant escalation of tensions with Western nations, leading to economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation. The ongoing conflict has further strained relations between Russia and the West, exacerbating divisions within international institutions and alliances. NATO's response has been critical, with member states increasing their military presence in Eastern Europe and providing extensive support to Ukraine's defense capabilities. At the same time, Russia has sought to consolidate its influence in eastern Ukraine, asserting control over territory and resources while challenging Western assertions of Ukrainian sovereignty. The conflict has highlighted broader geopolitical rivalries and competing visions of security and stability in the region. Diplomatic efforts. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict have been multifaceted, involving direct negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, as well as mediation efforts by international actors. The Minsk agreements, aimed at achieving a ceasefire and political resolution to the conflict, have faced numerous challenges and violations. International organizations, including the United Nations and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, have played crucial roles in monitoring ceasefire agreements, facilitating humanitarian aid, and promoting dialogue between conflicting parties. Despite these efforts, achieving a lasting peace remains elusive, with sporadic outbreaks of violence and ongoing tensions complicating diplomatic initiatives. Global responses. Global responses to the conflict in Ukraine have been characterized by a mix of solidarity, condemnation, and strategic calculations. Western nations, led by the United States and European Union member states, have imposed targeted economic sanctions on Russia, aimed at pressuring Moscow to withdraw its forces and adhere to international law. Public opinion in many countries has been overwhelmingly supportive of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, with widespread protests and demonstrations advocating for an end to the conflict and justice for affected populations. Humanitarian assistance from international donors has been critical in addressing immediate needs and supporting long-term recovery efforts. Meanwhile, Russia has sought to portray its military intervention as a necessary response to alleged threats to Russian-speaking populations and geopolitical interests in the region. Moscow's narrative has been met with skepticism and criticism from Western governments, who view Russia's actions as a violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and international norms. Conclusion. In conclusion, the conflict in Ukraine represents a critical juncture in contemporary geopolitics, with far-reaching implications for regional stability, international security, and global governance. Thank you for joining us for this in-depth look at Frontline Standoff, the battle for Ukraine's future.